What an incredible weekend of football, and what a derby victory for Queen's Park Rangers against Brentford. But we're not going to be talking about that in this video because we don't need to. Everyone knows the Rangers.
Hoops!
Rangers 3, Brentford 2. But don't worry about that. We're going to be talking about Man City versus Man United, and more importantly, the panic that the press have kind of had this morning in terms of the gap between the top teams and the rest of the league, and the gap between Man United and Man City. Is this Man City side the best Premier League side of all time? They look pretty good. Obviously 100 points last season. This season they've actually got 2 points less than they had at this stage last season.
Yeah, drawn one game more.
So they are regressing. No. But yeah, go on.
It's just the ease at which they're doing things. So there's a gap between Man United and Man City. And this tie last year, Man United won 3-2 after being 2 goals down. Tried it again this week, but didn't quite manage it. It's just the ease at which they're swiping aside teams like 6-0, 6-1 last week against Southampton. You expect them to beat Southampton comfortably, but it was a walk in the park, to use a cliche.
So we're going to dive into this game, talk about this game, talk about where Man United are as well as a side, as well as Man City. And I know that obviously a lot of people talk about the money that Man City have spent, but how much credit can you give to Guardiola and this team for how they're playing at the moment? Or is it just the ebb and flow of the top teams when they've got a manager who's been in place for a while? We're going to be talking about all of that. Let's kick off with the game itself, because the stats that came out from the game, I was watching it yesterday on the kickoff, and the first 15 minutes, Man City they had Man United shell-shocked, it's easy for me to say. The Man United starting lineup may have played a part in that. We'll get into that for a second. But let's talk about the brilliance of Man City.
Yeah.
The first 15 minutes of that game, you saw a team with so much confidence, so fluent, had so much understanding of what their manager wants in terms of their pattern of play, and they took them to the clean.
You mentioned it before we started recording, is that they've got players that can just drop into the role. There's a system that overweighs all of the individual abilities that are on the pitch. And don't get me wrong, they have incredible individual players, but their front three, Mahrez, David Silva, Sterling, they can be interchanged depending on whoever comes in. So it's not an issue for them. Whereas other clubs seem to have specialist footballers, whereas the specialist in this football club is Pep Guardiola. So, they play around his philosophy, and it all just fits regardless of who's there. De Bruyne, the best midfielder perhaps in Europe, isn't anywhere near the team, hasn't been near the team for the last month, and they've just...
It's absolutely fine. And you're right, and the way that they score goals, Man City, time and again, it's exactly the same way Barcelona score goals. It's very similar to the way that Bayern Munich scored goals, where they use that sort of inner channel. They have those midfielders there. They get to the byline, then pull the ball back and score goals from it. And the fluency of which they play was incredible yesterday. Is there an element here though that in a Manchester derby, you sort of styles make fights, and in this one, you had the personnel that Man United had on the day. It kind of reflects the point that we're making in terms of how Man City looks. So, like, Foden was on the bench, who could have come in there. Sane could have come in and could have moved it about. So many different players like that. Whereas Man United, when Pogba's not available, in terms of the options that you had to bring in, it left you with a midfield that lacked mobility, lacked a bit of guile because he chose not to play Mata instead of Fellaini, and lacked any kind of intensity until it was too late. Really.
Well, that was his choice though, wasn't it? To play that midfield. He's got the attacking personnel on the bench and at the football club in order to go at City's throat. He has that, but he chose to go down a different, more pragmatic route, and that's what Mourinho's done, and he's had a lot of success in the past by playing that way. And you look at Inter Milan's defeat of Barcelona over 2 legs in the Champions League in 2010, and he did the right thing against a kind of technically better opposition. And I think he tried the same thing again against Man City. But when all of the strength in your squad is in that attacking prowess, when you've got players like Sanchez, Martial, Lukaku came on, Mata.
Sanchez, Mata and Lukaku all on the bench today.
Yeah. Well, Lukaku's come back from injury, so you understand that.
Yeah, true. But that's the thing for me, that I now kind of had a realisation yesterday when I looked at it, and look, there are clear levels here. But Guardiola and Mourinho came in at the same time. They've both had the same amount of time to get their squads right, and Man City are thriving, and Man United are struggling. And a big reason why they're struggling for me is the entire ethos of which Mourinho sets up teams now. If Jurgen Klopp was manager of that team, Sanchez would probably be playing. They would be playing free-flowing football, and they would be set up like Liverpool was set up maybe 2 years ago. Last year, where they were great as well, where they were going, look, okay, my defence isn't brilliant, because this Man United defence is not great. No. I think that's a fair point to say.
Well, they've conceded 21 goals this season. At the same point last season, they conceded 6.
Oh, there you go. Very good stat. And the point is that if Klopp went into that team and managed that team, or even Pochettino as well, there would just be more intensity. I think there'd be more inspiration for the players to have. And I think they would, even if they weren't going to win this game against a Man City side, which is one of the greatest teams of all time, they would at least be putting up more of a fight, and they would at least offer up some questions for Man City to have to answer. Yeah. Fernandinho in that game, against a better opposition, he would have just dug a hole and stayed there. In that game, you saw it in the first 5 minutes, he gets the ball and actually steps into almost an attacking midfield role, because he's not worried about the midfield three of Man United at all. And that's a massive problem for Man United.
Fernandinho is the only player I think they can't replace at the moment. They don't have a like for like for him. He's intrinsic to them. He's aging now. I think he's 33.
Yeah,
so
I think he's more actually.
But he looks young though. Do you know what I mean? The way he plays, it doesn't look like a 33-year-old player. So, you know, that if anyone the Man City do need to replace or think about the future of, it's him, because he's intrinsic to the way they play. But going back to Mourinho, he's an experienced old manager now. Even though he's, you know, in terms of age sense, there's older managers out there that, you know, a manager, he's relatively still young. He should have another 15, 20 years in management.
Yep.
But I think what's happening here is as is what happens with experience, is he's going back to what he knows. And like I mentioned it a bit before, playing against teams like as good as Man City, he's previously, and just this week, has had great success in stifling out a game by being dogged in midfield, by playing a midfield that should be hard to break down in Fellaini, Herrera and Matic. You know, there's enough talent, defensive talent and physicality in that midfield to potentially stop Man City. This time it didn't work, and I think that's where it's coming from.
But you look, this is Manchester United, forget like the Man United way. It's about winning football games and therefore winning trophies. Name another team, Atletico Madrid, maybe you can give it to them, but apart from Atletico Madrid, there is no top side you go, oh, they're dogged. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Not anymore, because I think that there's more technically gifted players and around now than there ever has been. And football's won at its best in a kind of fluid attacking way.
And it has to be, because these players are so fit now and they're so organised now that these players have to be so competent and do it at really, really high speed, because that physical aspect of just lumping it long, it'll only get you so far. And so Fellaini is a weapon for them sometimes, but the problem that they've got there is you're relying on a guy like Pogba, who's supposed to be the main man, and if he's not there, then you're in trouble. And this Man United side, for me, I cannot see how they can get anywhere near the top four.
Well, I mean, I think...
Because even an Arsenal side are much more free-flowing at the moment, and I wouldn't say that Man United have got lesser players going forward than Arsenal. I'd probably say the opposite.
No, but they've got different mindsets and the managers.
And that's the problem for me. That is the problem.
I mean, you talked about the Man United way. I know you didn't kind of go into too deep in that, but there is a problem around Man United, is that they expect their teams to attack. The fans do. The problem is, this isn't Man United. This is Jose Mourinho's Man United, and there is no such thing as a Man United way, because that left with Ferguson. There's a manager's imprint is always the way a team plays. Like the Arsenal way of old was Route 1 football, and they got a lot of success that way until Arsene Wenger completely transformed the philosophy around the club. But when he left, that philosophy goes with him. Emery's coming in now. So all this talk about the West Ham way, the Tottenham way, we like playing fluid football. Yeah. It's bollocks. It's absolute nonsense. There is no way of any club. It's just an expectation from the fans, and then the way the manager does it. And the issue here...
The point I would make... Sorry, go on, finish.
No, it's fine. So I'm just saying Mourinho's always going to do the way...
The point I would make with Man United is the fact that this is a dominant football club. And yes, Fergie was there for a very, very long period of time.
When were they last
during those
5, 6 years ago?
No, they've still been at the top end of the table. They finished second last year, and that was 19 points off Man City.
In the same way Spurs finished second when Chelsea won. We were never going to do it. They were never going to do it.
The point is, this is one of the top two, probably the top one club
in terms of size.
Certainly in terms of size. In terms of trophies and Premier League titles won, they are number one. And Fergie or no Fergie, that is a very established football club.
Yeah.
And they've been able to go out and go, who do we want as the manager? And they've chosen Mourinho. And they're now in this problem where you've got the clout and the experience of Mourinho, which you understandably respect if you're a Man United fan. But the problem is, they're going to have an easier run of games coming soon. I think they've got Arsenal, but after that they've got Palace. They've got some easier games.
There's Liverpool as well next month, but yeah.
What's going to happen is these teams that are the same characteristics that you're saying, but are at the bottom of the league, that are dogged, well organised, up for the fight, they're going to come up against a Man United team that aren't as fluent as Liverpool, don't control a game like Chelsea, aren't as deadly as Man City, don't have a striker that they can absolutely guarantee will score goals in the Spurs side with Harry Kane. And it's gonna hurt them again. If they win these games against these easier sides, it's not because they're going to be like putting them to the sword, because they haven't done that all season. And I think, look, I think it's just been a bit more glaring because you've got Man City doing it to them, and there are massive levels there. But as I say, look, Man City, this Man City side, and this is obviously the title of the video, so we should talk about it in good depth. This Man City side could well be the best Premier League side of all time. It's still going to take a few years, but you've got Sane there, who's 23, Sterling there, Sane's even younger. Sterling's 23. Bernardo Silva's starting to really fire now in a Man City shirt. Gabriel Jesus can't even get in a team at the moment, and he scored a hat-trick last week. De Bruyne is not even on the pitch yet, and they are hammering teams. And Mourinho's coming out going, they've had 2 friendly games. The reason they're 2 friendly games is because they're walloping teams by 6 goals. When Southampton play Man United, it won't be that easy, and you won't be calling it a friendly game then. Yeah. And so this Man City side are brilliant, but I can understand why some people are going, come on, Man City, lose a game, make it interesting. But Liverpool's still in it, and Chelsea are still in it, and it's about getting the points, not the goal difference. Yeah,
the critics will say, you can't call them the best ever because they've won 1 league title under Guardiola. It looks like they might do it again this year, but the points differential between them and Liverpool is just 2. Chelsea is still in there, Spurs are still in there, and you can't call them that until they've achieved. But in terms of the way they're playing, the best footballing side I've ever seen. Yeah. They are better than the Chelsea winning team before. They're better than the Invincibles. Arsenal, well, they were Invincibles, but I can't give myself to give them.
They were Invincible.
They were Invincible. They're a better attacking side than that team. But it's just how easy they stroll around the pitch. That Aguero goal against Arsenal, against Man United, was a simple 1-2, but it was such a difficult thing to do that was made so easy. The weight of the pass for Aguero to go through was incredible, and only the elite players can play that kind of football. And going back to what we said at the very start of the video, the system they've got is incredible. What Pep Guardiola has done there is incredible.
Yeah, but I think what's also a problem, and it's a great thing that Man City have, and you've seen the great Man United sides of the past. You saw that Arsenal side of the past have it as well, and I think you're seeing it more and more in terms of the gap between the top teams and the lesser sides. There is this inferiority complex as well that is happening with all of these different teams. Only one of the few teams that really went for Man City and gave it a real go, certainly on the counter attack, was Wolves, and they got themselves a draw. But most of the other teams, they're already beaten by the time they get there. Another team that's do well against Man City is Liverpool, because they go, look, we're going to come at you and we're going to go toe-to-toe with you. And you saw in that game at Anfield, the Man City, they were careful. Kyle Walker and Benjamin Mendy, who just get on as much as possible in 99% of games, in that Liverpool game, they were careful. Because Liverpool don't have that same fear factor against Man City as the other teams do. But the problem that you're seeing, and it's a gradual thing, is one, you've got teams that are evolving and getting better and better, and the amount of money that the top teams have, it's making it harder and harder because their squad depth is brilliant. You've got Klopp and Guardiola. Sarri's doing an incredible job, but Klopp and Guardiola have been there a good few years now. They've got a team that's inspired, that's hungry, that is ready to play the way that they want to play and playing positive football. And the teams down below, they do have that inferiority complex at the moment, and that's why I think Liverpool and Chelsea still have a real shot at the Premier League title this season, because it's not about how many you win by, it's about getting the points.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
That's what I think.
Just one final thing on Man United before we stop is they are the biggest team in the world. They are the biggest club. They generate huge amounts of money, but none of that's important unless they start spending. Investing in these centre-backs that's going to turn them into a different football club. Back Mourinho in the way that he needs to be backed in order to do it, because none of that's important. None of it's important. Look at the way City have got their success is by spending. The way Chelsea have transformed their season this way is by spending on the manager and getting him in, but giving him the players they want. None of it's important. No matter how big a financially monolithical club Man United are, if that doesn't transfer to transfer fees. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point in terms of the centre-backs of Man United. They're not good enough and they need to get better players in. You see, even like someone like Laporte, who's come in now, it may be taking him a little bit of time, but he is a quality centre-back for their team. But for me, I'm starting to look at Mourinho and go, I just don't think it's ever going to work with him there.
Well, he's the one that built that team, didn't he? Yeah. He's been there for years.
But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. If you're still watching this video, then you must have got something out of it. Then hit that subscribe button and the like button as well. Mourinho, is it ever going to work at Man United? Man City, is this the best Premier League team of all time? And can Liverpool or Chelsea win the league?
More importantly, are the R's going up?
And are Queen's Park Rangers going up?
R's are going up,
Maybe.
going up.
R's are going up. Na, 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 na.